Okay, so our essentially okay, now that we have some time left, we will try to be optimistic and cover these 6 items in code. 6 items. Basic authentication, hopefully done in 45 minutes. Add a method to send pickup data to a taxi. Get taxi pickups with pagination. Update taxi information. Remove a taxi. Get taxi and pickups. I'm a bit too ambitious right now. I'm feeling it. Yeah. Start to opt for maybe next Tuesday when I come early for class. Okay. So why these 6 items? You will need authentication in your project, right? CA2 assignment. At least basic authentication. Pick up data to taxi. I think it's a bit of a repeat of the first one because you're doing a post. Okay, but we deal with the second table with some relations. Number 3, important because I will need you to know how to do pagination. Okay. 4 and 5 are very straightforward. 6 will be a bit like 3. Okay. So our priority is this 3. First 3.
After we have downloaded your project, we have to go import.
Yes.
Where to put your import?
Or you can copy and paste.
Copy and paste longer.
Import if you import if you import a project and then try to modify it for your own project, chances that you need to modify a lot of the namespace names like
copy and paste,
yeah
copy all the relevant stuff.
Yeah, of the relevant code in some places. Correct. So I'll show you a bit of copy and pasting from here, starting from basic authentication. So I will guess everyone agrees with me that create taxi shouldn't be left to anybody in the world to create taxis for you, right? Okay. So let's assume that create taxi should be something that is an authenticated request, not a public request. And the user needs to have some kind of username and password that we have somewhere in the database. Now, if you look at our database, yes. See? Okay. So we know that we want to have authenticated users to access a create taxi method, which means we need to have a table. So in our database taxi.sg, we got pickup and taxi, but we don't have a user table right now. So first order of the day is to create a user table, and then after create your user object and the user store to authenticate username and passwords. So the idea is if I'm going to send create taxis, I will require the client, which is your Android application, to use basic authentication, send in a valid username and password, in which our site in our web service we will pass it through the application using a basic authentication class to filter to check if this username password is valid. If it's not valid, we will return a forbidden, and if it's valid, we'll continue. So there are a few things, quite a number of things we need to create in this point of time. So we'll start with the user object, the most basic. So under a taxi.sg model, we need to create something like a user object class. So in this case, we could be member or subscriber. So under com.taxi.sg.models, create a new Java class. So I call this user. Right. So in the user class, basic information I will require, first of all, of course, a user ID. So there's an ID that we have generated for the user, actual username. and a password. Okay, so the basic structure plus probably the date created. To be date. So again, date you need to import Java util. Okay. So this will be my user object. Over in the database, I'll create a table with the matching properties to the columns. So I'll go over to TaxiSG in my MySQL workbench, right click on the tables, create table. So I'll call this users.
Create table.
Yes. Okay. Some of you might have issues with the user interface when not showing this thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. You might need to drag this output down so you can get a bit more of this. But some of you might have a problem on the left side where it's cut off.
Yeah.
Okay. Still cannot solve it. Alright. So if the UI is a problem, so if you recall how you used to do this, okay, ID, integer, okay, primary key, not now, auto increment, followed by the username. Okay, I'm just gonna follow the capitalization I use, the case style I use in the code. Password and date created. Okay, remove the last one. So for properties here, for the date created, I probably want to use the generated value. So recall in the last time we had a taxi, there was a that had a registered date. There was a generated value. So this one, the default expression would be, I think it's supposed to be date. Get date. Okay, gonna be a bit naughty to go and check on this one. Not this table. Okay, I think it was in the pickup table where I had the get date function. Okay. Hold on. Okay, looking for the current date function. See that works. No, it's not. Yes. How do you copy in system? Okay, so previous SQL, previous JavaScript, Java program is it? The one you downloaded? Okay. Go to File, open SQL script. Okay, so you see here, it should be loaded in the tab. Okay, so click on the first lightning symbol. Okay, what do you get? Under action output, do you get anything? Do you refresh the schema here? Right click, refresh all. Okay. To get this, you need to go to File, Open. So the last time around, I uploaded the taxi SQL script. So you do a file here, Open SQL script, choose the file there. Then you should appear in the tab. Click on the lightning icon to run the entire script. If you don't see the schema refresh on the left side, right click on the schema's navigator, click on refresh all. Okay, so the taxi script, yes, you need to download the taxi script. Yes, so the last script was available on here. I'm gonna put the announcements in. Okay, thanks. Okay, so the file is here, taxi SQL and the Java's project. Okay. So I got a user here. So for now, I'll do a manual insert into the user in the user table first. Okay, so I won't do a web service for this here. So to insert the user table, so insert into users, username, password, date created, values. So the username I'll just put as user1, password I'll just leave as password. For this, I will run a script called current date. Okay, so the SQL statement here that we're running. So because I'm not inserting an actual user through the API, so I write an SQL statement instead. So here insert into user, username, password, date created. For the date created, instead of entering the actual date, I will use a current date function. So current date is a MySQL date function that gets a current date value. Okay. So this current date is a function, needs to have the open and close bracket. So once I've done that, just do a check. Yeah. So my user is there. Okay, notice that current date actually only returns date but no time, huh? Right? Okay, so I'm gonna check out all the date functions related to. So there's a current date, current time, current timestamp. Okay. So in order to have current date and time, you will use the function in MySQL called current timestamp. So let me delete star from users. So I'm gonna flush the table out. Okay. So if I check the table. Okay. So nobody there. So modify current date to current timestamp. Okay. So now we check users. Date created now contains also the time that I created this user in the database. So the username will be user1, password will be password. for simplicity. So now I have a user object. Now I need to create authentication filter, or at least go up or create my database first. So in the database taxi.com.taxisg.database, I will create a data store called user data store. Will have one method to validate to find if a username and password exists or not. So here I create another class under taxi SG database. I call it user store. So user store will have one method, user. So is user exists. If user exists will need two parameters. One will be the username and the password. So the idea here is that you will do a SQL call and then return true if the user exists. So same thing as taxi data store. The idea here. So this part is a lot of copying then. First of all, I need to include the data store connection under user store. The next part I will need will be this segment of code here. So within the user store, before I return the result, declare a variable is exist. Assume it's false first. Set to return the variable. Next thing is I can copy this whole bunch of codes here. So I'm going to run a query this time around. So the query is different. It's not an execute. It's not a statement to insert anything. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm still going to create a prepared statement from the connection, but my query will be this. So select star from users where username is equal to this and password is equal to question mark. So this is my query statement. Select star from users where username equals to first parameter and password equals to second parameter. So because I use a statement here, I need to do a set string parameter index 1 to the username pass from the method, and also set string to parameter 2 with password. So how do I tell if this statement would have contained something? So now previously when we did a insert or add taxi, we create a prepared statement. Okay, then we also do execute result set. Okay, so this is I need to update you guys. Before doing a get result set, you still need to run an execute statement. So when execute will actually run the SQL script, get result set will get any available result set to return. In this case, it will be a result set of a generated keys. So execute will apply for insert and updates. If I want to do a query, so instead of calling execute statement, I call execute query. So in this case, execute query immediately returns me a result set. So if you mouse over execute query, it tells you that it returns a result set object, and from there, I'll just need to do a check. So if it can go to a first record, that means there's a result matching this query. So I'll set is exists equal true. Okay, so there are a few ways to check for. So a few ways to do this checking of users. The most common method is to do a select statement and return the row that matches the username and password. Okay, so of course there are other ways like returning a count of the rows instead of the data. So the difference here is the first one I did was I returned all the data in the row, which I will question myself, do I really need to do that or not, right? Because if I were to run this statement in, let's say, SQL here, so how the statement will run when this query is called, also select star from users where username is equal to, so I look at pass in user1 and pass in password. So this statement, when I run it, it will just return me the whole row. Okay. So what is not ideal about this statement is it returns me unnecessary information that I do not need. So how do I make it a little bit better? Normally what I do is I do select, because I need to know just whether it exists or not. Select count from users. So the rest of the statement there is the same, except that instead of returning me everything, I return only the count. So the count is actually a database function that counts the number of rows from the query. So the first result, it gave me a row, right? Now the second result, the second statement, when I call it, it gives me what you call a Scala. Scala is a single value result. So when you run a query like select count, select average, select maximum, max, or minimum, you return, when you return one single value, is no longer a so-called data result set, it's a Scala value. For Scala values, let's say you're expecting only one single value, normally we can do either a SQL query or let's see, I think they have use of execute Scala or not actually. Okay, and they use of execute Scala that gives you only one value. Alright, so different. Okay. So the difference between this query and that is one returns you everything in the database, this one returns you only one value in one column. So the result grid in this case, what happened is that the next would give you, if there's a next, so for this case, if I use a count, there will always be a next, but I need to check whether the value is 0 or more than, or 1. If it's a 0 means the user doesn't exist, if it's a 1, the user exists. Count basically means number of records that is retrieved. Yes. No, the number of records that is available. There's a result. Yep. Put a new query tab. So like the first result, if I do star, it gives me everything, the whole row. If a second query I run it, it gives me a count with a value of 1. So it tells me, so if let's say my query here returns me 2 rows, the result here will be 2. If it returns me only 1 row, the result here will be 1. So they're just different ways of checking whether username and password exist. So I got my user exists method done. Next thing will be to write the basic authentication filter. So here's when your copying pasting will probably work. So in application Java, if you had copied some of it from a previous program, you recall there's a register basic authentication filter class. So you need a basic authentication filter class inside your app namespace. So what I'll do, I right click new class. So I got basic authentication filter. This part I can copy. Okay. So first thing I need is you need to have a provider tag. So here you do a lot more copying than most places. So what I'll do is I'll copy most of the code from that side. Okay, send it into here, my new basic authentication filter class. Okay, so you have a lot of imports, right? You also have the provider. So this is a container request filter, meaning it will filter every request that comes into your application. Authorization property that we look for in the header, same. Authorization scheme, basic, same. We don't change it. So what we're going to change from the previous implementation of this code is that instead of hard coding the username and password checking, right, we're going to call the database instead. So here it says if user equal 1 query and password equals to this, then you return true, right? It's allowed. So going to comment this block of code here. So instead of hard coding this part, what I'm going to need to do is to include the user store class over here, basic authentication filter, and then make a check. So to use this, I need to at least import from database namespace. I don't only need one. Okay. This one? Oh, this is under the new one. Okay, close this. Okay, so I only took the chat API basic authentication code snippet to copy over because I don't want to rewrite the whole thing. Okay, so here is a user allowed would check whether this user is allowed to access this current resource. So all I need to do is user store. So create a new instance of user store. So you have a method is user exists. I need to pass in the username and the password from here, right? So basically it's allowed. I'll just send it. So I just assign the value is allowed from this is user exists in the database. So the idea is that when a basic authentication request comes in, okay, I should be able to verify the user from here. The rest of the methods here, I probably don't need to change it because it's still the same way that was done before. Okay, last thing to change will be my endpoint. So in my taxi resource, this now, okay, so what I need to check here is, so what if I put as user? So what I'm stating here is roles allowed user. However, right now I don't have any roles yet. Well, that is taken care of in basic authentication filter for the time being because right now I'm ignoring the role set from checking user allowed. So regardless of the roles that I set up inside the taxi resource, it's not checking. But as long as I put roles allowed, it will check that this request has a username and password. Okay. So that is done. Publish. So let me. Okay. So I'm gonna call post taxis. Better put in a new car plate number. Okay. Some different information. Okay. So right now, if I access post to taxis without any username and password, I'll get you cannot access this resource. So that's the correct response. So I'm going to add in the authorization header. So click on Postman to the authorization tab, choose basic auth. So in the case, my username is user1. Okay, that's the one in database. So as long as the user is matching in database, it should be able to work. So once I enter the username and password, you have to click on preview request, and you will add one more header to your headers. Authorization header with the encoded username and password. So I'm going to do a send. Okay. Status 200 okay. Of course it didn't return me the ID here. Let's just check. So the call was successful. I wasn't denied that call. But did it add a taxi? Yep. So it added in taxi. So this is how you do your basic authentication. So if I want to create another method where I want to restrict access in the most simplest basic way without any roles, I just need to add the method but along with this annotation, roles allowed user. If I want to separate into different users, like there's an administrator and there's a user, then I will need to modify my database table to add one more column called roles. And that will need to match with the rows here I use. Yes. So in the database table, for the users, right, I need to add one more column called row or rows. Yes. So the column can contain a list of rows separated by the comma, and then when I do a comparison in the user store, I need to add one more parameter here called row or rows. So that means I will check not just username or password, but also check the row that has been requested for this resource, whether it matches or not. Okay, so in the authentication, you don't need to key in the row in the username and password. So when I key in this username and password, when it's sent over here to the basic authentication class, okay, so this remains the same, only username and password. How do I know what row this person has? First of all, if the username and password exists, then there's also the row column that I can get from. But why do I check the row set together? Okay, so the matching happens this way. The row set is obtained from the rows annotation, which is coming from taxi resource, this. So what is happening is when this method is called create taxi, the username and password is sent over. Then I'll look at the row set allowed for this endpoint, which is user. Then I will check in the table, does username and password and this user exist together in one record or not? If it doesn't exist as one record, then that means the user doesn't have access to this resource. Get it so far? For post. Yes, so if you want to have another method for put, which is update taxi, right? So this one would be, okay, so all the signature out here is the same. This is put, however one more, half. So this is a path param. So in the update method where you're doing a put, you want to restrict it to the user only. you can copy the same rows allowed over here. Yes, so let's say you want admin to will do this. So you have two type of users, right? One is the ordinary user to do all the GET requests. So in this case, you don't have a public API, or may not. So let's say you have one layer, one set of API for user to do operations, but another set of for admin to, let's say, update the taxi data. So you can have, let's say, post as admin. Example, put could be user or admin, right? Okay, actually, this thing should supposed to be user. Yeah. So the second method here will allow two different user roles to access. Okay, the first method is just one user role. Did I write correctly? User. Yes. So your user. So now your user has one more column called rows. So in the object of course, it's better to have rows here. But most importantly, the table needs to be modified. So we can add one more called rows. Okay. So there's a rows there now. So let's say I want to up. So let's say I clear out the user first. Huh? So now when I insert a new user, also include the rows. So maybe this one is a user. Okay. And then I'll add one more. Second one I'll call it an admin. So now I have a user and an admin. Okay. Sorry? Up to you. Yeah. Yeah. So okay, passwords don't need to be unique, but the username needs to be unique. Okay. By practice, username should be unique. So let's say I got rows here. So what happened is that in my user store, I definitely need to modify this or row. So what I'm going to check is that does it contain the row that I'm looking for, right? So I'll modify the query also and rows. So the decision of how you want to do the rows here will affect how you develop the application. Do you want to store the rows as a string delimited by the commas, or do you want to store rows separately? So in most cases outside, what happens is that we have a rows table which map to the user ID. So it doesn't have a complication whereby you compare strings normally. Okay. So do you want me to do the more complicated example? Okay. So let's make it simple. Okay. Simple in a sense how simple it is. So sometimes simple can be worse, depending on what you do. So let's say rows here, we can no, maybe not. Okay. A bit extra. Okay. So to make a simple example, rows will store could be storing like say user admin. Okay, something like that. Okay. show you where the complication starts. So how do you compare rows? So to do an equal sign may not work because if the user has multiple rows, you can't compare, right? You're sending in, you don't know what you're sending here. It could be one single value or multiple values. Single value, okay. So let's say you decide is that going to be single value and each user can only have one row, right? Other user admin, right? Then it's more straightforward. So here I just set rows equal to question mark because I should have rename it as row, not rows. So my statement, I will need to do a set string parameter tree with row. Okay, so everything else remains the same. So what I did was just add one more criteria, add one more set string parameter, and one more parameter up here. In the authentication filter class, I'll need to modify. So now is user exists will require a row parameter. In this method, I have a row set. Now the row set will be tricky. So how does row set come about? The row set will come from here. So when it is just one value, it's fine. However, if I have multiple, then I have multiple row set values, right? Means I need to make a few calls. So I'm going to simplify this a bit. My method is only made to handle one row comparison. So that will mean that this row set need to be run. This method is user exists. You will need to run a few times against the list of rows here. So I got a choice. Either I run this SQL statement multiple times per row, or can I pass the entire row set in here as a single SQL statement? Okay, so here's the part about SQL you should understand. Making SQL database queries is considered an expensive thing. It's like taking an Uber as search rates from point A to point B. So why is it expensive? Because fundamentally database run on I/O, input and output operations. So every time, like example, every time I open a file on a disk, hard disk, okay, it incurs reading time, read access time. Okay, so there's a combination of timing involved. If you do software engineering, you understand how the hard disk spindle tries to look for a particular address. It takes time. So nowadays with SSD, it may be a slightly different story lah. Okay, so it's fundamentally faster also, but still database queries must be minimized as much as possible. Why? Because they're not as fast as in-memory data, which is what a program runs on. So right now I can choose either I can run is user store, is user exists, multiple times depending on number of rows I pass in, or I can actually send the row in as one and compare it as one. Okay, so how do I do that? So I write to you a statement. So let's say I want to do select. So this is my previous select statement, right? Select star from users where username is this. And now I add in rows. Okay? So rows equals to user. So then if I run this statement up here, the first one here, okay, no, because I don't have a colon, semicolon. No, some statements may be a pass one line, you need a semicolon behind. Okay, so if I run this statement, user, password, and row, it matches, right? Okay, but if I want to have a comparison of multiple rows, so let's say the row set for that method was user and admin. That means I need to run this two statements instead of one statement. Okay. How do I combine these two statements into one statement? All right. Okay. Getting it. So all rows is equal to admin. Okay. Okay. So here's a little bit of fun. So in this statement, select start from user where username is equal user1 and password equal password and rows equal user or rows equal admin. Do you think it will work? Not likely, right? It's either a user or admin, right? Okay. So the scenario is I have username and password from the request, but from the method I may have more than one row. So I need to do a cross matching. So that's why I have possibly two or more rows, more than one row to compare. But is this statement correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. So this statement, right? Okay, so I'm gonna ask a trick question lah. Is this statement up here the same as? So what do you think this statement will do? Really? The condition is username is equal to user1, password is equal to password, and rows is equal to user or rows equal admin.
Isn't it like close a bracket?
Bracket.
I'm not so sure now.
You get the feeling like you're missing something, right? It's like saying 1 plus 1 times 5 times 5, right?
So you say it goes to 10 bracket, like open like close bracket.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so there's a difference. So let me show you what happens here. So what happens is when you do criteria and all rules, right? So this rule and this rule, okay, if will how I describe it, stick together. So if you do and all rules, what happens is that when you have an or rule, okay, that is not how to say grouped with the other condition, you might end up with some other results. So when I do this, what I'm asking is that okay, if the row happens to have user one and password have password, and the row is equal to user, that means it's true. Okay. However, if row is equal to admin, can also possibly be true. So let's run this and see what happens. Huh?
So what the statement does is that if somebody has a wrong admin, but he key the wrong password, he will still be able to accept.
Okay. So the username password may not match, right?
May not match, but because his role is admin, so he will still be able to.
Yeah. Okay, let's try password wrong. Just admin. Okay, so there is a problem with this statement. So if I run the statement like this, I get two rows instead of one row. Ideally, I only want to have one row. The reason why there are two rows is because this condition, the last condition, or rows equal admin. Yeah. So if I want to single out the result, I group it by putting a bracket around. So it's the same as in maths. What happens when you do 1 plus 1? Yeah. Why you need to have brackets around it. Okay. So when I do this, I only have one. So the problem with this statement is that okay, a wrong password wouldn't be a wrong password will end up with the person getting an admin role. Right? Yes. So let's say a user were to try to call put. Then the put method happens to have, let's see, two rows, user and admin, right? And the user is someone just hack his way in, okay? XXX, okay? So what happens is this, if with this statement without the bracket, you end up giving back one result, admin, which will end up giving the user access to that method, although he entered the wrong password or entered nonsense here. See? So even if a username and password, anything in the world, yeah, so I get something else just because of or row equal admin. So in order to have proper criteria, you need to use the brackets to single out. So basically what I'm trying to compare is the username must be user1, password must be password. The row can either be user or admin. The other way of writing this, because I don't know how many rows there might be in the future, is to use this special statement called in. Okay, so rows in. So the in keyword allows you to compare with multiple values in an array. So in the future, if I have more rows, I can actually use the in keyword. So that's one way to do a comparison for multiple rows. Okay. So going back here. So let's try to key. Let's use the in word for this. So I'll be keying in the set of string row set. So row set is basically like an array. Okay. And my user store. So now in this one, instead of a string, I need to match the same type here. It's a set. Okay. Now the problem here is I cannot just pass in a set into SQL statement. Okay, because a set is a type that only Java knows, but SQL doesn't know that type of data. So what I need to do is I set possibly an array. Let's see. I think so. I can do an array. Okay. So set array at 3. Okay. So now the thing is here contains an array. Let's convert to an array. Okay. Set array, integer array. Okay, not the way I expected it to be. Okay. Pet statement set array. Yep, not very helpful. So I need to do this. So create an array first. Varchar object. Okay. So there's some things extra step I need to do if I want to compare an array in the statement. So if we go back to the SQL statement, what happens is that when I use the in keyword, this list here looks like an array of strings. So to compare array of string, first of all, in the parameter, I still have the open and close bracket. So the question mark should be substituted by an array of strings. When I pass in a set row, so I need to use this function called create array of, this method called create array of varchar. So I pass my row there, it return me a SQL array object. The only I can use an SQL array object to set an array inside this parameter here. So let's do update and take a look at what happens. So I have a create taxi. Let me duplicate this. So now this is a put taxi. Save this. So let me update taxi method. Okay. for. Okay, so let's look at the user first. Huh? So I have a user one, password, user role is user. Admin will be admin user, okay? Okay, let me check. Maybe it's the wrong way I put the user roles allowed. Correct. Okay, that looks correct. So roles allowed. Okay, so what happened? Did the correct role set pass get passed into the method here? Go to debug mode. There was an error actually. SQL feature not supported. Oh, right. Okay. Bomber. SQL feature not supported. Okay. Sorry folks, you cannot use this method in MySQL.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Okay. So Java has this thing called create array, right? Then carry on the parameter here. However, that method only seems to work for other databases other than MySQL. So how do we solve this problem? Okay, so good old traditional setting statement. So instead of passing an array, what we can do is only pass a string. Good thing is that row is not sent in by the server side, by the client side. So it's hard, they can't do SQL injection on this one. So what to do? So that means I need to convert this row into a comma delimited string and then pass it in a set string method. Right? So basically I need to do this. Can I do to array and join? Nope. They don't have a join method. So I'm looking at shortcuts. Java array string. So there's always this quick and easy way of joining arrays together. So in most programming languages, whenever you split stuff into an array, usually there's a join method like this. Okay. So if I can do in one single statement, do string dot join. No, cannot. First is the delimiter, second is the array. Still not. Yeah, okay. That should work. So what I do is row, I convert to array, cast it as a string array, pass into string.join to get this row string. in, then I go and do a statement, set string, number 3, set with this, row string. Yep. Okay, that should work. Oh, in debug mode. Okay, shoot. Let's resume. Okay, do you work? Ah, cannot cast it to string. Okay, so it complains I cannot do this thing. Okay, so I'll try this method. Okay. Still unauthorized. 401. Okay, for that again. Number one with extra stuff. Yeah, number one with some extra stuff. Comparing multiple rows. I'm trying to finish all by today. Optimistically lah. Okay. So rows didn't work there. Alright. I'll go and figure this out and update the code. Okay, I'll move on to adding pickup data. Okay. So other than if you want to compare multiple rows, which may tend to get a bit tricky sometimes. So next we'll go on to the adding pickup data to taxi. I think I'll do it faster, right? Okay, adding pickup data to taxi is very similar to adding taxi to the system, right? So what you need is, because we already have a pickup Java, the object here, so you need two things. One is the database method and the web service resource. So start from database. So this is the part where you start to copy and paste lots of code. Okay, so pickup data store. So here we will not need to return an ID, so we just add. So do a create, right? So in a create pickup, what is the information do we need? Okay, so we'll likely assume that the pickup date is at the time when it's entered the server. So we will not use pickup date from the front end. We will, however, use the latitude and longitude. So how we can write the method is if we can just use the pickup object. Okay, then of course no database, so no ID. So we'll still do a lot of this part here. Return generated keys we don't need. Okay, catch exception. So print stack trace. Okay. So the data store and pickup, we need to import them. Data store connection, you need a copy of this in your pickup store class. Okay. So the statement here we insert into the table we pick up. Okay. So what we will insert the schema. Okay. So pickup date, we'll insert it from server side. Latitude, longitude, address, and taxi ID. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 parameters. Okay. So statement set string. So for the pickup date, what we'll do is we just set a new date. So new SQL java.sql.date. See. string, second one for pickup attitude. Oops. Okay. So taxi ID would be number 4. Teacher. Oh, so taxi ID should be number 5. So set string. Set date. Oh, not set string, set double. Yeah. Okay. Just set date because our type is a date type. How did I do that? Yeah, get time. Okay. Right. So all the parameters set up, and so we need to do execute here. That. So because we don't need to return any ID, so we just do a simple execute. So this is the database side. For the web services part, we'll create a new resource called pickup resource. So pickup resource for the path required pickup. Okay. Then create a new response. Create. So this is very similar to the taxi resource, whereby we need to have access to the store, right? So here we need access to pickup data store. See. Oh, small u. Okay. So here in the method pickup for create, under the resource we'll pick up data store dot create. Then pass in the pickup data. Then return the response. Okay. 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 So So if we create a regular pickup resource method like this, create, so I post into pickup with a pickup object, technically it should work. So how this URL will be accessed will be, let me update. So, okay. So basically we got a resource called pickup. We do a post. The body wise would be something with, so the body will need to follow the object definition. So I have attitude, longitude, okay, address, taxi ID. Okay, so taxi ID would be, okay, so it may not be a number plate. So here the taxi ID refers to the actual ID in the database. Okay, so go to taxis. So the ID column here. So the way we did the table is that pickup has this foreign key called taxi ID. Taxi ID refers to the ID in the taxi table. So if I need to insert a valid pickup data, the taxi ID needs to be something that exists inside here. So let's try with this one. Okay, 200 okay. No response because we're not expecting to return any ID at all. So let's check pickup table. Okay, so there's one column, one row there. Now what happens if we try to insert a row without a valid taxi ID number? So what do we have in taxi ID? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me try 6. So I'm going to test whether the foreign keys actually work or not. Okay, so 200 okay, right? Because I never send the error message back up to the web service layer, but has that data been inserted? Okay, it still get inserted. So which means the foreign key isn't enforced. Okay, let's check. Did I create any foreign keys? Oh no, I didn't. Okay, so we have everything here about foreign keys. Also, no foreign keys were created between pickup table to taxi table. So that's why I can insert a pickup with invalid taxi ID. So if you were to enforce some kind of key relationship, right, normally SQL will throw an error tell you that, oh, the key is not found, it's not unique, there's a constraint. Or you can do it manually by checking if the ID exists or not in the code level. So how you can do it manually is that before you do a create here, you can actually say validate the pickup taxi ID, right? So that's one way to validate. So how do you do a validation is that you need to actually write another method in the taxi data store. So there's one create, you probably need to write one is to retrieve by ID. So if you're able to retrieve a taxi by ID or check if it exists, then you continue to create. Otherwise, you throw your own custom bad request or such a response. So that's your creation of the pickup data. How about if you do pickup in the proper way? Like let's say now if I'm doing pickup, so I'm sending pickup into the resource called pickup here. If I want to do it differently, to say I want to send it through the taxis endpoint and the pickup. So this is another way of posting the data over. So instead of having taxi ID in here, so I don't need to include taxi ID attribute. I just send this 3 data over. So I take the one from the ID from there. So to do that, so here will be a bit of a mix. So in the taxi resource, so we call that a sub resource. So a sub resource there be a few ways to do sub resource. One of them in Java Jersey, they say you can actually include a subclass inside the main resource. Very straightforward way is actually to just say add pickup, right? So here you can have still the pickup data, but also with a path parameter taxi ID. So in this case, the path here will be equal to ID, right? And you're doing a post. So this will be path will be ID slash pickup, and here you can do the rest of the method as per normal. So in here, maybe you might want to create your, okay, so here I'll just instance this thing. Because need to resolve all this first. So the pickup data here, okay, so this one may seem a bit oxymoronic. Okay, so this is how it might be done. So from the pickup object, because I'm reusing the same object, I can reassign the taxi ID from the parameter into pickup, then send it into create pickup. Just one way. So other ways, sometimes you might create a separate method that only receive 3 parameters, which is the latitude, longitude, address, okay, or 4 parameters separately. So 1, 2, 3, 4 parameters under pickup data store, and then call it within here. So that separate object may just contain those 3 attributes, and you don't need to. I mean, that would be a different way of recycling the objects here. So this is another way of doing it, so that in order to achieve the ability to call through this URL like this. Okay, so that's your add pickup data. So let's say we want to do a pickup, get the pickup data with pagination, right? So naturally it will be under pickup resource, and then we need to edit pickup data store. So in pickup data store, we'll add one more method, which will tell me an array list of pickups, right? Get pickups. So the get pickups method in this case, okay. So array list is basically a list type of object. Instance it first. So now the interesting thing here is how do I call SQL statement and then convert the return result set into array list. So everything else remains more or less the same. Connection, null, and then prepared statement, right? You definitely will have some kind of a query here. So when I do pickup, I want to be specific. So I'm not going to pick up from everything. So I'm going to pick up from a taxi, right? So all this else remains the same. So in the prepared statement, when I'm selecting from pickups with a taxi, I'll do a select star from pickup where taxi ID is equal to the one on the list. So simple statement like this will give me all the pickups coming from the taxi. So for fun, let me just update the database. So I'm gonna put in some dummy data lah. Okay. Oh, error. Oh, okay, it's not here. It's the original one. Okay, so I just fire out some data here. So what I'm gonna do is pick up from taxi ID equal this. So you can see there's a lot of repetition coming on here. So not that difficult, right? Copy and paste. Okay, so select start from pickup by taxi equal taxi ID equal this. So this is not the end of your pagination, because in pagination you need to have the page and then the page size, right? So SQL has this special command called limit. So limit has two parameters: start from which row, how many items to retrieve. So in my database method, I will have a page and page size. Okay, so very simply, I know that for sure my page will need to be calculated. Row to start. So before I go on to all that stuff there, I need to start calculating some things. So row to start. Okay. The last parameter is easy. It's just page size. How many to retrieve? Okay. So in order to get rows to start, I need to know how many are there in the first place. That means I need to run another SQL statement before this, right? Okay, so statement number 2 coming up. Statement get total. So how do you get total number of records in a table based on a query? Count. So count is the function to get the total number of records in the table, right? So statement get total. Just write it properly. So statement get total, I just need to set parameter, the taxi ID. Okay. So this itself, when I execute the query, execute query, okay. So this would definitely give me a table cell with one column, one row, which will contain the result of this count, right? So I can just say result total get. I do a dot next first. Then I get an integer, column index 1. Okay, row. So total. So total records. So to start doing pagination, I do a statement select count from pickup, where based on taxi ID, I get a total number I store into total records. To get that, I need to do the result set, move the cursor next, and then get an integer from the first column. So this is my total records. To figure out where to start, row to start will be equal to total records divided by page size. Okay. Then times my page. Okay. But there's a chance that this might be a decimal, right? float. Okay, so not sure they have a rounding up. Okay, so I will do a math ceiling. Okay, the problem is because both are integers, it complains that it's not a double. Let's see. Oh, doesn't work this way. Okay. Yes, I need to round up. For example, if my answer is 1, also let's say my total records is 10 and I want page size of 3. So that's 3.3, right? And because there's no 3.3, anything in the point difference I'll consider as one page already. So that becomes a 4. I think so. Correct. Oh, so no. No need if else. So you just do a math ceiling on the result to tell you what's the row to start.
But every page size is passed on by the user, right?
Hmm? Page size.
Passed on by the user.
Yes, user will pass on page
So what
size.
happens is that let's say you need 2 records here and then the user will pass page size of 10.
Only 2 records. So we retrieve everything.
Huh?
We will retrieve everything.
Everything.
Am I correct here? Am I correct? You sure? Okay, so row to start. So total record minus divided by page size times the page. Okay. If I'm at 0 index, that means my page is starting from 0. Page 1 would be, let's see, correct, 10, 10, 3 size. So do you want page to start from 1 or 0? In computer science there is start from 0. Normal human science is 1 . So if page is always 1, I need to minus a 1 here. Okay. Now what's the danger in doing this? Yeah, page 1 would start from record 0. Up to you.
What if the user key instead of let's say page size equal key 0 accidentally?
Good point, right? So why page size is 0?
So must put minimum page size 1.
Correct. So infinity. Page size 0 means 0 lah. Okay. So if we were to, what happens if page size equal to 0? Throw exception.
No, don't put exception, I just set it to 1. And
Default always 1, right? What? I cannot do this. Okay. Okay, so if page size is equal to be 0, I will just return the list. Nothing. Don't continue. Okay, that's one bad way of doing it. Yeah. Okay, so row to start page size. It should be correct, right? So let's go to the pickup resource. So in the pickup resource, if I want to do a get, okay. So this time when I want to do a get, ideally I want my method to look like this. So localhost, okay. So I want it to start from taxis, 1, pickup, page is equal to 1, and page size equal to maybe 2, right? So this will be ideally how I want to pass the data over to return. Okay. So in my taxi resource, probably have one method called get taxi pickups. So I have a path parameter, which is the taxi ID. I have a query parameter, which is page. Yep. This will have the path of pickup, and you will do a get equal produce. Okay. So here I need to call my another method. So pickup data store. So I'm gonna instance this inside here. Pickup data store get pickup taxi ID. Okay, page and page size. So this will return me an array list. I think I'm missing something. Okay. So I think I forgot to add something else. Inside the pickup data store, when I had the result set, I need to convert it into an array list. Here. So this case, what we do is do no while. So we need a loop. Result set next is true. Okay. List.add new. So I'll do a pickup data. So get int. So here I do one by one pull out the data and then pass it into the new pickup instance. Hey, so here is a bit of a guessing game. When I do select star from pickup, I don't specify the column order, right? Okay, so if I do get integer based on the index, I'm not 100% sure that number 1 will give me the ID. Okay. Okay, so fortunately in get integer they allow us to key in the name of the column. Okay. Yeah, then you're not sure which one you might get, right? Rule of the thumb is the way you do the create statement, the order of the column will determine the order of the column when you retrieve select all. That should happen all the time. Okay, but sometimes you never know. So get date. So we pick up date. So this part can be quite tedious if you have a lot of columns, right? Okay. So this is the best time to do it when your brain is half asleep, because you're doing quite mindless things right now. Okay, taxi ID. Okay, so populate your object with the respective properties you want. You can choose not to put in some of the properties, actually. Depends. Okay. If sometimes very strictly you say you don't want the full thing from database, you create a new model, create a new object with a limited properties. Let's say I don't want ID to return back, I don't want taxi ID. I just create another object class with latitude, longitude, and pick up date. That's it. So this list should be okay. So they recommend that I do this. Okay. So when you see this less than more than sign, right? Basically, what I'm doing is I'm saying I'm creating array list, but I want it specifically to be a array pickup type array list. So just to make it strongly typed. So go back to data store. No, taxi resource. So now I get a array list of pickups. Okay. So very exciting. Need to return it back already. So here's another tricky part. So I remember from last time message services, what we did was, so generic entity is something that we use to wrap to return data back, especially if we still with lists and objects. Okay, the reason why we need to do this because it doesn't necessarily understand the objects you have in your classes to will convert back to JSON. That's the best explanation I can give now. Okay. So what I'll do is I create a generic entity. So I say this is my class I need to return. Okay. How do I do that? Is it new generic? Yes. And pass in my pickup data. Okay. So when I return the list, basically I can return, oh, I think I'm missing that. Okay, so I return this list here into the response. Start. Okay, at this point I'm not totally done with paging yet. There's something missing in my paging. Okay, okay, now you call this. Oh, error. Wait, not found. Taxis. Get taxi pickup ID. Pickup. Yep. So not found. Oh, I can't access the resource. Serious? Ah, yes, of course. Allow. Oh, is it? No such thing as allow all. Great. Wait. So it's restricting me from calling the command. Let's try. That's because, but here I don't have anything, right? Authorization, headers, nothing. Okay. Oh, still unauthorized. Interesting. Okay. Good question. Good suggestion then. next week.
Maybe they finish it, then we publish it tomorrow and download it.
Yeah, consider that. Okay, so shouldn't have a problem on here. Get. Because the first one, the post actually, post, I haven't test the post yet. Yeah, test the post yet. Oh, that worked. Oh, okay. Don't know why it didn't work. Okay, let's see. Two here, three here. Seems to be okay. Hmm. I didn't change anything. Okay. I just refresh. I don't know why there was a we cannot resource access resource error just now. I just restart the server. Because okay, technically I don't have any annotation up here, right? So there's no rows allowed or deny anything. So by right is anyone can access. Yeah, not restricted lah. So these two methods shouldn't be restricted because of that. Yeah, so anyway that you start the server it works. Okay, so what's missing in the pagination here? Next previous. Yes. Okay. So to do the next previous is tedious, a little bit tedious because most commonly what you might do is to create another class that has a next and previous attribute. Then put this inside that thing. Okay. Yeah. Should I do it now? I'll do a version upload the thing. Okay, so this let's see. So this Friday is supposed to have an online session, or any time this week you want to do an online session. I run through online session coding again through Skype or what. Does anyone want to have a separate 1 hour to finish off the?
You Skype session, those who can join.
Okay, so I'll put an announcement. Um, Normally Friday is the online session. Okay, this week. So you can either do it maybe on Thursday evening. Oh yeah, class. Sure. So either Wednesday or Friday, right? Friday, yeah. So Friday evening. Okay. I'll put my Skype ID on the announcement board. So you need. So if you do you all have Skype? Skype. Okay. So we can do a group session on Skype. Then I will just talk through adding how to add the next few items in. I also recorded. Then I'll put out a recorded version.
Oh, is that Skype on the PC then?
Yes.
So what the heck is the company of the Skype?
You have a WhatsApp group? Serious?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. Can. Okay, so I think Afrin have my Skype, right? Yeah. Okay, so my Skype ID. So just look for this email. That's my Skype ID. Sorry. Okay.
Skype.
Okay, so if you don't have Skype, download, register yourself account, then add my ID in.
Skype must have a Hotmail account, right?
Normally Hotmail account, but I think you can do it without Hotmail. You can do it use your regular email to sign up. Then you will ask you to create an ID. So you can then add contact. So from Skype here, okay, so you to add somebody, you can search on Skype. Let's say, yeah. So you can find people on Skype basically, anybody lah, yeah, or someone in your address book. So add button. And you have got Skype here,
Yeah, use handphone.
handphone.
Actually, let's start here. Right? How come you don't start?
Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. So next, so we'll do the 1 hour session. I will finish up on this one with the class that you need to create for pagination. Okay. Then we'll go through number 4, update, remove, and get taxi and pickups, the hypermedia version. How much of the practical have you all started? I mean, the practical, the assignment.
Zero.
Zero. Template. The template is the cleanest template you can take is from Taxi SG lah. Cleanest lah. No experimental things. Add the rows ah. Oh yeah, correct.